Today we're going to talk about one-step inequalities. Here I have a Venn diagram. We're going to talk about how equations compare to inequalities. So first, we have equations. An example of an equation is like x equals 2. The things we know about equations are there's one solution. With equations, we use an equal sign. And the two sides of that equal sign are equivalent. Make sure you're writing this on your notes page. And if you need to pause the video, pause the video. Okay, so let's talk about inequalities. An inequality would be like x is greater than 2. When you're dealing with inequalities, you're not saying x is 2. You're saying x can be any number that is greater than 2. So x can be 3, 4, 5, 6. So the thing about inequalities is x has many solutions. Equations only have one. X has many symbols: greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and not equal. We graph solutions of our inequalities. Graph solutions of our inequalities. And we'll talk more about what we need to know to graph. So now here we are in the middle. Well, how are they alike? They both have some sort of variable. They both have variables. And for both of them, you solve using inverse operations. Okay, so pause the video if you need to take these notes on your paper. Let's talk about our goal. Our goal is the same with inequalities as it is with equations. It is to isolate the variable. However, with inequalities, I like to make sure the variable is on the left. Get the variable on the left. The golden rule is also the same. The golden rule is the same for inequalities as it is for equations. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. Okay, so let's talk about graphing on a number line. You're going to need all of this knowledge in order to graph numbers on a number line. So first, let's talk about the symbol. The greater than symbol, usually, I know they don't like for us to use the alligator, but the alligator eats the bigger number. The greater than symbol usually faces the bigger value. So greater than and greater than or equal to has a line underneath. Less than faces away from the larger number. Less than or equal to has the line underneath. It's like the combination of the equal sign and less than sign. Here we have open or close. When you are graphing on a number line, the way you make your dot indicates what kind of symbol you have. So if you have a greater than symbol without the line underneath it, it is an open circle. If you have a greater than symbol with the line, it is a closed circle. It's the same when you have a less than. Less than without a line, open, circle. Less than with the line, closed, circle. Okay, let's talk about line direction. When we draw our arrow, when you graph with a number line, you draw an arrow. All of this is going to make sense when we do it. Right now, we're just building the baseline. So, line direction, if it is greater than or equal to, your arrow goes to the right. Arrow to the right. If it is less than or equal to, your arrow will go to the left. And that all has to do with the numbers on the number line. If you're going from a 0, all the numbers that are less than are going to be pointing to the left. If you're looking at 0, all the numbers that are greater are going to be to the right. So that is why. Let's look at some examples. You would solve these the same exact way that you would solve an equation. Ask what is being done to the variable. Undo what is being done to the variable. Example 1. We have x plus 13 is greater than 62. What is being done to the variable? We are adding 13. So in order to undo that, I must subtract 13. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So I have x is greater than 49. So I'm going to make my number line. Normally what I like to do is I just like to put the numbers that I'm graphing. Just 0 in the middle, the negative of my value on the left, and the positive of my value on the right. And I just graph it based off of that. Okay, so looking at my symbols, what kind of symbol do I have? I have a greater than symbol, which means it is an open circle on positive 49. My variable's on the left. Since my symbol says greater than, my arrow will go to the right. So that means the value of x is any number bigger than 49, 50, 51, 52. It could be any of those numbers. Let's look at example number 2. Again, what is being done to the variable? Subtraction. How do I undo that? With addition. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. X is less than or equal to 16. Okay, so I'm going to make my number line. Negative 16 on the left, positive 16 on the right. So now I'm going to look at my chart. I have a less than or equal to, so that's this right here. Open or closed circle. Closed. So I'm going to go to positive 16 and put a closed circle. And now, since it's less than, my arrow is going to go to the left. Now, when you look at these number lines, if you notice, look at our symbol. Notice that the back of our symbol, when our variable is on the left, the back of our symbol actually tells us which way our arrow should go. The back of it is pointing to the left. And the back of this one is pointing to the right. And this trick only works if your variable is on the left. If your variable's on the right, that doesn't work. So let's look at example 3. Example 3. I have a 14 being added to the x. This is a positive 14. In order to get rid of a positive 14, you need a negative 14. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. X is less than 9 minus 14. Negative 5. Good job. So, now I'm going to make my chart, put 0 in the middle, negative 5 on the left, positive 5 on the right. Look at your symbol, open or closed circle on negative 5. Since it says less than, but it does not have the or equal to, it is an open circle. Now, what does this open or closed circle mean? Open circle means that number is not included in the possible answers. If I plug in negative 5 for X, negative 5 cannot be less than negative 5. That's why it is not included. Now, if it has a line underneath it, for example, with example number 2, if I plug in 16, 16 is not less than 16, but it is equal to 16. So a closed circle means that number is included. Okay, back to example 3. Let's talk about the direction of my arrow. Since it's less than, we know it goes to the left. Also, look at the back of my inequality symbol. And this trick only works when my variable is on the left. The back of my symbol is pointing to the left. Okay, let's do example 4. X minus 5 is greater than or equal to 0. Again, you have my 5 is being subtracted, so I need to add it. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. This becomes X is greater than or equal to 5. So I'm going to make my number line 0 in the middle, negative 5 on the left, positive 5 on the right. Is this going to be an open circle or a closed circle? Closed circle, because it says or equal to. This 5 is included into the solution. Is my arrow going to go to the left or to the right? It's going to go to the right. Look at the back of my symbol. The back of my symbol is pointing to the right. Let's look at one-step inequalities when you multiply and divide. So when you multiply and divide inequalities, you still solve it the same exact way as you would solve your one-step equations. There's only one thing that's different. So you're still going to use inverse operations to solve. However, if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the sign, flip the symbol, flip it to face the other way. That is the only difference between one-step inequalities and one-step equation. If you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the symbol. So let's do some examples. Now, when I say a negative number, it has to be the number attached to the variable, not the number on the other side. Let's look at example 5. Again, we know what to do. 8, when you have a number and a variable right next to each other, it means multiplication. So the way you would undo this multiplication is with division. I'm going to divide by 8. What'd you do to one side? You have to do to the other. X is greater than 2. Zero in the middle, negative 2 on the left, positive 2 on the right. open or closed circle. It is an open circle. Left or right arrow. It is a right arrow. Let's look at example number 6. Negative 6z is less than negative 18. On this one, this is where we would use our rule. If you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the sign. Here, I'm going to be dividing by negative 6. It's the negative on the number that is attached to the variable that causes you to flip the sign. It doesn't matter if that 18 is negative, that one is not going to cause you to flip the sign. It's only the number that is attached to the variable. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Z is greater than, and negative 18 divided by negative 6, that's positive 3. Zero in the middle, negative 3 on the left, positive 3 on the right. Okay, open circle or closed circle. Gonna go to positive 3. This is an open circle. Left or right arrow, it's a right arrow. That means any variable that I plug in for z has to be greater than 3. So it can be 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to infinity. Let's look at example number 7. X divided by negative 5. Notice the number that is attached to the variable is negative here. So since it's being divided, I have to undo the division with multiplication. Put a dot, negative 5. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Since I multiplied by a negative 5, I have to flip my symbol to face the other direction. And then 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. So let's make the number line. 0 in the middle, negative 35 on the left, positive 35 on the right. Okay, open or closed circle. Since it has the line underneath or equal to, it is a closed circle. Left or right arrow. My symbol is pointing to the left. Less than means left. It is a left arrow. Okay, last example. 1/3 x is greater than 4. There are 2 ways you can solve this. Since it's a positive 1 at the top, you could just multiply both sides by 3. The other way would be to multiply by the reciprocal. So I could multiply by 3 over 1. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. So those cancel. X is, now, do I flip the symbol on this example? No, because I did not multiply or divide by a negative. The symbol stays the same. And 4 times 3 over 1 is 12. Make my number line, negative 12 on the left, positive 12 on the right. Open or closed circle. Since it's or equal to, it would be a closed circle. And my arrow goes to the right because it's greater than. Okay. So fold this on the dotted line. Fold it down where it says fold here. And then fold the bottom up so that looks like a little envelope. And go ahead and glue and staple this into your journals. Hopefully, I will be feeling well enough to be there tomorrow